was a person who worked with Antifa. Is that something that you support? Do you think that that's an appropriate move of the president at this moment?
I just saw the tweet, and I know nothing of the episode, so I don't know. I'm not as fixated, I guess, as some people.
Senator Shelby, what did you think of the president's tweet? Senator Cornyn, can you stop at the mics for a second? What do you make of the president's tweet this morning? Does the president need to be more cautious about what he tweets? Majority Leader McConnell, do you have any response to the president's tweet this morning? Does the president need to be more careful about what he tweets?
I didn't see it, so I'd have to. I mean, I'm sure that my office will be able to get me a copy of it, but I didn't see it.
Senator Burr, what do you think the president needs to be more careful about his tweets, like the one this morning?
So no real response to it, but
Why not?
I don't think it should be surprising in general because he tweets a lot.
Senator Johnson, was it appropriate for the president today to suggest that this Buffalo man had been pushed over? This was staged by this man? Any response, sir? You want to weigh in about the president's tweet this morning about the Buffalo protester?
No, I like to take a look at it, guys. I don't have anything for you now.
Do you have any response to the president's tweets this morning about the Buffalo protester? You saw the president's tweet this morning where he talked about this Buffalo protester. We have it for you here.
It's become a familiar scene in Washington, Republican senators avoiding questions about a tweet or a comment from President Trump. Yesterday, it was President Trump's tweet about that 75-year-old protester in Buffalo, New York. As we told you on the air yesterday morning near the end of our show, the president suggested that Martin Gugino, who was pushed by two police officers at a protest, may be an Antifa provocateur, in the president's word, who was trying to scan police equipment. He was not. The president's claim appears to have been taken from a conspiracy theory that aired yesterday morning on One American News Network, a far-right propaganda cable channel. OANN reporter Christian Ruse claimed that newly released video showed Gugino using a police tracker on his phone, calling it an old trick used by Antifa without providing any evidence or other examples. The video was not newly released. It was just slowed down, and it does not show Gugino using a police tracker. Ruse, who we should point out, previously worked for the Russian state media organization Sputnik, has a record of pushing baseless conspiracy theories at OANN. For instance, last month he claimed that the coronavirus was a plot by George Soros, Bill Gates, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the Clintons, and China for, quote, population control. The video of Gugino being pushed has become one of the most viewed examples of police violence in the recent protests. Two officers have been suspended without pay and charged with second-degree assault, to which they've pled not guilty. The president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, was asked to weigh in on President Trump's tweet yesterday.
Did you have a reaction to the president's tweet earlier today regarding the man in Buffalo?
Beg your pardon?
Did you have a reaction to the president's tweet?
I learned a long time ago not to comment on tweets.
A senior administration official tells NBC News aides initially tried to keep the president busy yesterday, the day, of course, of George Floyd's funeral, and conveyed to him that the quieter he can be, the better, out of respect for the Floyd family. Joe, I don't say this lightly, but that's the way you talk about a young child. We need to keep this child busy and distracted so that the child does not act out in some way on the day of national mourning around the funeral, in this case, of George Floyd. And you have Republican after Republican, including the chief of staff with a smile on his face, pretending they don't know what the press is talking about.
Well, you know, what's interesting, Willie, is a lot of people look at those Republicans walking past, not saying a word, as somehow being helpful for the president. How dare they? And, of course, they should all speak out. Lisa Murkowski, I think, spoke out again. But it is so damning that with every one of those members of the United States Senate, every one of those Republicans that pass by the microphones and will not stop to defend something that Donald Trump said is damning for the president. And this keeps happening over and over again. The president's rhetoric becoming even more inflammatory, the president's language becoming even more offensive. And for these Republicans, most importantly, since they obviously aren't going to stand up for the rights of senior citizens who are getting brutalized by police officers and sent to the hospital in critical condition, since Mitch McConnell's not going to defend a senior citizen, and since every one of those Republicans aren't going to defend a senior citizen, and in fact, the president will put that senior citizen's life at risk by saying that he's part of Antifa, which he calls a terrorist operation, which other members of Congress tweet out should be hunted down and killed. Since they don't care about that, every picture of one of those Republicans walking past the microphones, not saying anything, is damning to the Republican Party, makes matters even worse for the Republican Party, makes them look even more like politicians with something to hide. And, you know, I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it again. We can all look at those clips, Willie, Mika. We can all be offended by it. People can raise their arms high into the air and go, oh, how do they get away with such things? How are they getting away with this?
Right.
They're not. 2017, Democrats won sweeping victories. Women stood in the rain for hours in Northern Virginia just to send a message to Donald Trump, an elected Democratic governor, and to defeat one Republican after another in state legislative races. 2018, remember, Willie, we were all shocked, and we should have been shocked, by Donald Trump sending troops to the American-Mexican border during Thanksgiving and Christmas over the holidays. You know, and actually before that, going into the election to try to prove a point. Remember all the garbage about people coming with polio and smallpox and scurvy, whatever. I mean, whatever they were calling leprosy. Leprosy. I think somebody on a news network said that the caravan was bringing leprosy to the United States, and we were sitting there like, how could we do this? This is so terrible.
Staggering.
And I heard a million times, he's going to get away with it. This is so bad. He didn't get away with it. What he got was, he had his party defeated at the polls in a way that was historic. Republicans lost the biggest landslide victory by vote that year that they've ever lost. 2019, Democrats picking up states in the deep South, in the governorships, in Kentucky, in Louisiana. Willie, this doesn't work. Not only does it not work, it is toxic for the Republican Party. There is no happy ending to a party that won't speak out against police officers pushing a 75-year-old man to the ground, having blood coming out of his ears, having him put in the critical care inside of a hospital, and then having the president accuse him of being a terrorist, because that's what Donald Trump has been saying for weeks, that Antifa is a terrorist organization, and members of Congress have been tweeting that they should be hunted down and shot.